Mr. President, I would ask
The Senator from Michigan.
we initiate the quorum, please.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would ask unanimous consent that on Tuesday, June 19th, at a time to be determined by the majority leader after consultation with the Republican leader or his designee be recognized to move to proceed to the consideration of S.J. Res. 37, a joint resolution disapproving a rule promulgated by the Administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency relating to emission standards for certain steam-generating units, that there be up to 4 hours of debate on the motion to proceed, with the time equally divided and controlled between the two leaders or their designees. Further, that 2 hours of debate equally divided occur on Tuesday, June 19th, and the Senate resume consideration of the motion to proceed at 10:30 a.m. Wednesday, June 20th, for the remaining 2 hours of debate. That at 12:30 p.m. on Wednesday, the Senate proceed to vote on the adoption of the motion to proceed. That if a motion is successful, then the time for debate with respect to the joint resolution be equally divided between the two leaders or their designees. That upon the use or yielding back of time, the joint resolution be read a third time. The Senate proceed to vote on passage of the joint resolution. Finally, all other provisions of the statute governing consideration of the joint resolution remain in effect.
Is there an objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Thank you. Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to a period of morning business with senators permitted to speak therein for up to 10 minutes each.
Without objection.
Notwithstanding the adoption of S.Res. 488 and the preamble thereto, I ask unanimous consent that no amendment to the preamble that is at the desk be agreed to.
Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent that the Judiciary Committee be discharged of further consideration, and the Senate now proceed to S.Res. 470.
The clerk will report.
S.Res. 470, designating July 28, 2012 as National Day of the Cowboy.
Is there objection to proceeding to the measure? Without objection, the committee is discharged, and the Senate will proceed.
I ask unanimous consent that the resolution be agreed to, the preamble be agreed to, and the motion to reconsider be laid upon the table.
Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent to proceed to S.Res. 495 submitted earlier today.
The clerk will report.
S.Res. 495, designating the period beginning on June 17, 2012 and ending on June 23, 2012 as Polycystic Kidney Disease Awareness Week, and so forth.
Is there objection to proceeding to the measure? Without objection, the Senate will proceed to the measure.
I ask unanimous consent the resolution be agreed to, the preamble be agreed to, the motion to reconsider be laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate, and any related statements be placed in the record as if read.
Without objection.
Now, Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that when the Senate completes its business today, the Senate adjourn until 10 a.m. on Tuesday, June 19th, that following the prayer and the pledge, the journal of proceedings be approved to date, the morning hour be deemed expired, and the time for the two leaders be reserved for their use later in the day, that the majority leader be recognized, and that following the leader remarks, the next 2 hours be equally divided and controlled between the two leaders or their designees, with the majority controlling the first half and the Republicans controlling the final half. Further, that the Senate recess from 12:30 until 2:15 to allow for weekly caucus meetings, and that finally that at 2:15 p.m. the Senate resume consideration of S. 3240, the Farm Bill.
Without objection.
This evening we reached an agreement for consideration of amendments to the Farm Bill. There will be several roll call votes beginning at 2:15 tomorrow in relation to the amendments to the Farm Bill. We will also begin consideration of S.J. Res. 37, a joint resolution of disapproval regarding Boiler Mac. If there is no further business to come before the Senate, I ask that it adjourn under the previous order.
The Senate stands adjourned until 10 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Today in the Senate, work continued on the